We live on the blue planet. 71% of Earth's surface is water, and there is still so much of our oceans left to explore. The pollution of our waters is a growing problem that does not have a simple solution, yet cannot be ignored. So what is water pollution? Water pollution is the buildup of substances within water to the point where they cause problems to humans and animals alike. An easy way to explain it is, if you had a glass of oil and poured it into the lake, it wouldn't disappear, but at such a low concentration, you wouldn't be able to see it. And at such low levels, the chemicals in the ink would not present any real problem. However, if you built a pipe through the lake that leaked oil at a slow and steady flow, even though it would still not be visible, the chemicals would accumulate and be a problem to the health of the plants, animals, and people that depend on the lake.
The phrase oil pollution paints a picture of massive oil tankers leaking great amounts of black oil into the water. However, these spectacular accidents represent only a tiny fraction of all the pollution entering our oceans. Even considering oil by itself, tanker spills are not as significant as they might seem. Only 12% of the oil that enters the ocean comes from tanker accidents. Over 70% of oil pollution at seas comes from routine shipping and from the oil people pour down drains on land. However, what makes tanker spills so destructive is the sheer quantity of oil they release at once.
With billions of people on the planet, disposing of sewage waste is a major problem. 2.4 billion, or 40% of the world's population, don't have adequate sanitation. To make matters worse, relatively little progress has been made on improving global sanitation in the last decade. Sewage disposal affects people's immediate environments and leads to water-related illnesses such as diarrhea that kills 525,000 children under 5 years old every year. And this problem isn't only in developing countries. One of the most famous places in the world, New York, dumps 5 million tons of sewage straight into the ocean every year. The two other main pollutants are nutrients and chemical waste. We will discuss them shortly as they take their effect in a much more unique way.
We know without a doubt that water pollution is a problem caused by humans, as it is a relatively recent development in our planet's history. It began as a result of the Industrial Revolution in the 18th century. Industrialization spread rapidly across the globe, and so did the methods of disposing waste into the ocean. At this time, the population of the world was only 1.6 billion, rather than the 7 billion it is today. For this reason, people at the time had a firm belief that the oceans were far too large to ever be polluted. It is evident to us today, however, that this is clearly not the case.
When you hear the term water pollution, you might think of oil spills in the ocean or maybe garbage floating along the shorelines. However, what you might not know is that 80% of water pollution does not begin within the water itself, but in countless human activities that take place on land that contribute to the quality of water in the environment. Take for instance the fertilizer that farmers use on their fields, and manure from their livestock. Both of these are primary sources of nitrogen and phosphorus. When the rainwater washes these chemicals away, they leach into the groundwater and are swept into nearby water bodies. When added in excess, they can have a substantial impact on the quality of water. Some of the most major pollutants are the poisonous gases and chemicals that we release into the air each day. This includes cars, factories, and chimneys. The chemicals are released into our atmosphere and, as we know, pollute the air. But what we don't consider is the fact that they fall back onto the surface as rain, entering oceans, lakes, rivers, and groundwaters. This is called atmospheric deposition, and is a prime example of why water pollution is such a difficult problem to solve. The pollution of a water source is devastating and can destroy entire ecosystems. When oil spills, runoffs, or any other accidents cause water to suddenly become contaminated, all forms of aquatic life become compromised. A species can quickly become endangered and be driven to near extinction. This not only affects them, but has a chain reaction on all other animals in the area by disrupting the food chain. Also, if an animal which is a primary food source for many predators consumes poisonous chemicals, the predators will also ingest those same substances, thus leading to the chemicals moving further and further up the food chain and becoming present in more species. An example of this is the case of the wild Chinese sturgeon, which is one of the oldest living species of the animal world, and has been around for more than 140 million years, making it far older than us humans. Recently, it entered the critically endangered category on the International Union of Conservation of Nature's list of threatened species. Around 30 years ago, the sturgeon enjoyed a relatively healthy population of around several thousand specimens in the Yangtze River. Due to increasing levels of pollution brought by the boat traffic, dams, and lax waste disposal methods associated with China's economic boom, the figure has fallen to 100. The ancient sturgeon are not the only ones to suffer at the hands of Chinese urbanization. Since 1955, the population of the Chinese alligator has fallen by a staggering 97%, while in the last 30 years, the population of dolphins in the Yangtze declined 99.4%. If we do not take measures to protect these animals which thrived on the earth before humanity, then we will lose them from our planet forever.
We know of the damage that water pollution has on our environment and the animals, but how does it affect us as humans? The chances are that most of us in Canada don't feel the effects of water pollution in our day-to-day lives. But if we become ignorant and get into the mindset of thinking that because we don't see it happening, it's not happening, we will become part of the problem. The truth is, millions of people all over the globe are affected by water pollution. Those living in undeveloped and impoverished environments struggle each day to find clean drinking water. Although there are chemical-based disinfection techniques that can clean the water, most do not have this available. Although this doesn't directly impact us now, if you truly don't care about others, think of your own future. Water is becoming more and more scarce.
The problem of water and air pollution is a seemingly impossible problem to solve. The governments of our world must unite and all make an effort to help our planet, because at the moment it's the only one we have. However, with Donald Trump backing out of the Paris Climate Agreement, it is clear that the environment is not everyone's priority.
The United States will withdraw from the Paris Climate Accord.
But we can't make the mistake on relying on them. Some small changes, such as using environmentally friendly detergents, not pouring oil down your drains, reducing pesticides, carpooling, and limiting your gas emissions, can make a big difference. You might think, if I pour this cup of oil down my sink, it won't affect the ocean. You're right, it won't. But the problem is, millions of people think the same way. The key is to work together. If every person in the world made a tiny change to their lifestyles, we could change the world, and that change could start with you.